Alright guys, so in this video we're going to look at spacing. So Bootstrap has some really awesome margin and padding classes if you want to add spacing, which is nice because you don't have to add line breaks. You don't really want to use markup to add spacing. You also don't have to go into your custom CSS and add custom margin and padding classes and stuff like that. So I think that the spacing classes are awesome, and you'll see that when we start to build our projects, we're going to use them quite a bit. Now, I did create, you'll see here, start here. We're going to look at margin bottom first. I did put some color classes just so you can see the outline of each H1 here, and you'll be able to see the actual margin. So this first one here, we're going to use a margin bottom of 0, and we can easily do that by adding the class of, actually let's put them in the beginning here. So we can add the class of MB-0, and let's save that. And now notice that there's no more margin. All right, now hopefully again you're familiar with HTML and CSS. Margin is basically the outside of the element, the spacing outside, and then padding is the inside. Okay, so if we're dealing with padding, it would be inside the green. Margin is outside the green. So for margin bottom 1, let's say MB-1 and save, and now it gives us, and if we look at our dev tools here, and let's take a look at MB1, so its margin bottom is going to be 0.25 rem. Okay, so it's a multiplier of 0.25 times 16 pixels. And if we look over here, the actual pixels, if we look at margin bottom, is 4 pixels. Okay. And if we scroll down to the bottom here for a second of this file, you'll see the different multipliers. So 0 is obviously 0, 1, as you can see over here, is 0.25, 2 is going to be 0.5, 3 is going to be, for classes, this is basically the default, 4 is going to be times 1.5, and 5 will be times 3. Okay, so I'll show you the rest of those now. Let's see, where was I? All right, so let's close this up and let's take a look at MB3. So MB-3, and if I save, you'll see that this right here is the MB. Oops, I wanted to do MB2. Sorry about that. So MB2 is the default. So there's no difference between using MB2 here and not using it at all. It's the default. But then we have MB3, which will make it a little bigger if we add MB4. Okay, so that's a little bigger, and then MB5, save that, and that gives it a pretty big margin on the bottom. All right, now notice the reason I'm using MB is because we're using margin bottom. For margin top, we want to use MT. And just to show you, if we go back down here, so we're using M because we're setting margin, and then we used B for bottom. So we can also do top, we can do left, right. X is going to be left and right. Y is going to be top and bottom, and just blank. So if we did, for instance, M-3, then that would be on all sides, margin on all sides. But I'm going to get to that. I'm going to show you all of that. All right, so let's take a look at margin top. So right here, we'll add a class of MT-0 and save. And you're not going to really see any difference here because there's nothing above it, but it's just taking away the margin top. Excuse me, the margin top. So let's say MT-1 and save. And right here, that's MT1. Let's do MT-2 and save. Let's see, why isn't that? Is it working? MT3, save. All right, so MT2 is the default. Why isn't MT1? Oh, it doesn't really look like there's a difference there. Let's check it out with the Chrome tools. So margin top 1, we have 0.25. Margin top 2, let's check that one out. So that's 0.5. All right, so there is a difference there. And we have MT4, so margin top 4. Save that, and let's do the largest one, which is MT5, and it gives us quite a bit of margin on the top. All right, now let's take a look at ML and MR. So this is left and right. So what we're doing here is looking at this. So I want to add margin right to this span. Okay, so remember span is inline, so everything is inline text here. And let's add M. Let's see, yeah, we'll do M. Let's do margin right because we want to put it to the right. So MR, and we'll say -5, and save. And notice that it pushed this text over 5. So the multiplier for 5 is 0.3. Let's say we want to do margin left. We could do ML, and let's just do 3, ML3, and save. And you'll see that it gave it a margin left right here. Okay, so for left and right, so left and right at the same time, we could do MX. Okay, so let's say we want to do MX-5. What that's going to do is it's going to take this span right here and add margin 5 to each side. So we'll save, and notice that there's margin on each side. All right, now we can also do top and bottom at the same time, and we can do that with MY. Okay, and remember MX is going to be horizontal, MY is going to be vertical. So this middle paragraph right here, I want each paragraph, the one below it, the one above it, to have some spacing. So let's say MY-5 and save. And now notice the margin below and above this paragraph. Now if we want it on all sides, so this one right here, what we could do is we could just do M and then whatever the multiplier, so M5, save, and now we have margin 5 on the top, bottom, right, and left. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. Now we have the same kind of thing with padding, except instead of M, we're going to use P. And remember, padding is inside. So these padding blocks, I put a BG warning just to separate it from the margin stuff, so it's yellow. Let's start with padding bottom. So we'll say PB-0, save, and that will take away any padding on the bottom. Let's say PB-1, save. Now you'll see it's a little more padding there. And by default, there was no padding, by the way. So PB0 would be the default for this. And then let's say PB-2, save. That gives it a little more. PB3, PB4, and PB-5, save. And that gives quite a bit of padding on the bottom. Of course, we can do the same with the top by using PT. So PT0, that's not going to change anything. That's basically the default. PT1 will add a little bit of padding. PT2, a little more. PT3. PT4 will add quite a bit. And then the largest one would be PT5. And save, and that gives a bunch of padding on the top. And then just like with the margin, we can do like left and right. So let's say for this we want to do padding right. We'll say PR-5. We're looking at this right here, this padding right 5. If I save, gives it the padding. Now notice it's inside of the block, so it's inside the yellow, where margin was outside. All right, and if we wanted to do left, we could do PL3 and save, and that gives it some padding on the left. If we wanted to do the left and right, we could do PX-5 and save. That gives it padding on the left and right. If we wanted to do the top and bottom, we could do PY-5 and save. And now padding on the top and bottom. And just like with margin, we can do it on all sides with just P-5, or let's do 3, and save. And now we have padding on all sides. Okay, we can also do horizontal centering by just adding in an MX, so margin X dash auto, and save, and that'll move it to the center. So it's the same as doing like margin auto, and I can show you that. If we go here, and you'll see it just sets margin left auto, margin right auto to important. All right, so that's it for spacing. We will be using this stuff quite a bit throughout the course, especially in the projects when we want to, when we create sections and we want to add spacing below them or add some padding, stuff like that. All right, so in the next video, we're going to take a look at sizing.